In today's tutorial, we'll do a few case study on how we can make a market entry. Now, this technique can be applied to both the long-term or the short-term trade. And for today's discussion, there are three segments. The first segment, we're going to go into the discussion on why on the 26th of November 2021 that we saw a very strong signal to sell, and perhaps if you're long, to exit. That we saw that years of bull market on the particular day itself, that perhaps it may transit into a bear market at a point in time. And on the second segment, we're going to discuss something more closer, which is about just a few months ago on the 13th October 2022, why there's a proposition to go long in this bear rebound for a short-term trade. And it's been about 2 to about 3 months have passed. And of course, not forgetting that we're going to discuss about how about today. Can we apply this technique about the entry strategy for today's context? That I'm seeing a very strong proposition that is about time to sell. And I will discuss about it, the reason why. And this selling signal could bring us to the next few weeks and perhaps the next few months or maybe into the long term. And if you've been following the series called the trading series, which was launched about a month and a half ago, today being the 5th tutorial, that we're going to discuss specifically on the entry. And the first part of this series, we spoke about the buy strategy. And the second one, we spoke about the sell strategy. And the third, we discussed about how to develop between the long-term view, mid-term view, and the short-term view. And last week, we also discussed about how to choose between the time frame. Should we go for 5 minutes in our analysis, 15, how about 60? And I know a lot of traders, they struggle about choosing between the time frame. And last week, we addressed this issue. And do visit my playlist that search for trading series, and you were able to see all of this teaching tutorial. And before we get into the first segment, do take some time to read into the disclaimer down here. Let's get started on the first segment, why 26 November 2021, that I'm seeing there's a proposition to turn short or perhaps to exit at the close of that day, and it's also the close of that week that we saw that there was this bearish engulfing body. So what happened here, that this is a case study chat group that I have, and members are there, and today they're still very active. And I asked them on question 3 here is that how should we plan for our entry. So basically what I'm trying to do here is to direct them to see that there was a bearish engulfing body, and I want them to discuss about it. So many of them contributed, they saw it. And of course, we are looking at the weekly chart, and it's always good to also include the fundamental as well. And we could see that we understand that somewhere around April 2021 and onwards, the CPI, the inflation number, has broke above about 3%, and we could see that it's holding well, is trending up to 5 to 6%. And in November 2021, I also observed that it has broken the 30 years high. The last 30 years high, the CPI have broken above that. And that was November. And we understand about the fundamental, and technically it kind of confirmed that as well, that we saw a bearish engulfing body. And that's that particular point that we believe that there's a proposition that perhaps the bull may have transited to a bear market. And let's look at the next chart here, and this is today, and that's where the market has developed. And where was 26 November? It was here on this weekly chart, and we could see that how nicely the market has peaked at a point in time. It kind of did a double top, and that's where we are here today. And we could see that it has developed into a bear trend, the bear market. So how to identify a bear market is basically each new peak, it is a lower peak, and each new low, it is a lower low as well. So what is this? And this was a tutorial that I've done as well, in a video tutorial that I will put a link. You can visit the link, which was done on the 23rd of August at a point in time. So our point of discussion at the point was we discussed about how to construct a primary and secondary downtrend line. So we kind of stopped there and we saw that it's quite beautiful that there was secondary downtrend line. We stopped there and we believe that the market will continue to trend down, which it did. So, but of course, this is not the topic for today. But what we could do here is that if you were to project a little bit further, we could see that the high it touches pretty nicely about 2 days ago. And what happened to 2 days ago? It was the release of the CPI, November CPI, that it came better than expected at 7.1%. And the other thing that I want you to take note of is that all these candlesticks, whether it's a bar chart you're using or candlestick, it doesn't really matter. But in this case, we're using the candlestick. So we all knew that a hammer, it represents a reversal. An inverted hammer, it represents a reversal. A bearish engulfing body, so it's a bullish engulfing body. Now all these represents a reversal. So we don't have time to explain about the behavior science behind all this setup, but there's a proposition, there's a reason why it happened. So in this case, we saw a bearish engulfing body, but before that, we knew that the inflation numbers has been on the rise, and that became a combination of two factors that it became a double confirmation, affirmation that the strong proposition at the point in time, perhaps the bull may have transited to a bear market. And let's move on to the second segment of this tutorial today. Why 13 October 2022, there's another proposition to go for an entry, but this time to go for a long. And bearing in mind at the point in time, I acknowledge that even today that my view about the market is bearish market. So now on the 13th October, that's what I saw technically. And of course, every technical, there's a reason behind. That's why I call the behavior science, that we saw a very beautiful hammer. Now, let me share with you why this hammer is so beautiful. But before that, some fundamental development here is about CPI, that we could see that in February 2022, for the first time, it crossed above the 40 years high in inflation numbers, and it keep on climbing all the way to 9% at June 2022. Now that's the turning point here fundamentally, that it reached a peak, it kind of stay at 8.5, 8.3 and 8.2 in the September 2022 reading for the CPI. It kind of plateau. So at the point in time, fundamentally, I believe that market is maybe looking at the CPI very closely, that could the inflation finally be taming off. So that's fundamentally some good news there. But on the 13th October, that's what I saw on the daily chart. Dow Jones that we're seeing here is that there was a hammer, a very beautiful classic hammer, and that became a proposition to go long. So it could be a long, but of course that's a midterm trade, and for midterm trade, that's always important to also include a stop loss. My stop loss is around here, the recent all-time low at a point in time, and I expect the market to have a bear rebound. Now let's move over to the last part of this series, which is how about for today's market? Is there a proposition for a market entry? And I want you to take a few seconds to just appreciate this chart. What will be your proposition for an entry? And what I'm seeing here is there is an inverted hammer. And we're going to come back to this very shortly. And I always advocate that as a trader, we have to know what we are dealing in, the contract that we're managing. And for this example, we are looking into the CME E-mini Dow Jones. So basically it states that the minimum fluctuation, of course, is 1 point is worth $5. It means that 10 point is $50 and 100 point is $500. Now, this is how it works here, is that my plan is on this day itself, I saw an inverted hammer. But before that, on this day is also a very important day, which is the release of November CPI data. Now, it was pretty much anticipated that the data will be good, and it came out as pretty good at 7.1%. Now, there's this saying that buy on rumors, sell on fact. But let me just kind of rephrase it. It should be also buying on anticipation, sell on fact. Now, before the release of data, the market kind of went all the way up, and this is daily chart. But at the point of when the data is confirmed and released at 7.1%, the market kind of took a U-turn on the daily chart and closed around the day low. Now, this is what I call buy on anticipation, sell into fact. Now, this is a kind of explanation, I would say, that is how do I explain inverted hammer in a sense of with behavior science. It end up with disappointment. So the next day, of course, is a Federal meeting where they confirm that it was a 50 basis point hike. Now, let me just clear this up. So what was the proposition back then was that all the while, you know, that my mandate is this rally is a bear rally, and I'm looking for a point of entry. Is either to take profit, and in this case, yes, I took profit, and also to turn short as well the next period. Okay, so my whole idea was this was a point where fundamental and technical, it kind of merge and combine, so it gives me a strong proposition that it's time to sell. And of course, this selling points here with a stop loss here, and that's a few hundred points. And still remember that for the contract, 100 points is $500 US. It may be pretty much heavy for including myself as well. But next week, I'm going to discuss about we're entering into the sixth part in this series, and I hope to discuss about the exits as well. Of course, if you find that this contract is heavy, there's always the little brother of the E-mini Dow Jones, which is the micro E-mini Dow Jones, which I will discuss about that next week as well. And if you're enjoying this series, and especially today's discussion, do follow me on my next quarterly live webinar. We will study and discuss into the current markets. You can find the sign up link below. If you like the platform I'm using, there are a series of promotion this month. Check the link below for more information. I will continue this trading series, trading into longevity, next week with more market insights and strategy. Feel free to leave me any comments below. I would love to exchange ideas with you. And for more market insights and tutorial, I hope to see you again very, very, very soon. Thank you for staying true, and you have many great trading weeks ahead.